The stars were calm. Space was quiet, just like always. Ships moved in and out of the Empire's space. Everything was normal. But then, one signal changed everything. It came from deep space. Just one signal. Faint. Unclear, but it was real. The Empire's watchtower picked it up. At first, the officers thought it was a mistake. Maybe a broken satellite. Maybe a lost probe. But then they looked again. It wasn't a mistake. A ship was coming. One ship. Small. Alone. Its signal showed it was human. The officer in charge, Captain Raylon, frowned. One human ship, he said, confused. Why would a human ship come here alone? Humans were strange to the Empire. They lived far away and didn't visit often. They didn't talk much, didn't trade much. They liked their own space. The Empire had not heard from them in many years. And now, one of their warships was moving straight into Imperial space. No message. No request to enter. No signal asking for peace. Just silence. Other officers laughed. Maybe it's lost, one said. Maybe they don't know where they are. Maybe it's a test ship, said another. It looks small. Weak. Captain Raylon didn't laugh. He didn't like the silence. No ship moves like that unless it knows what it's doing, he said quietly. The ship moved slowly but directly. It passed the first border post without stopping. The post sent a warning. No reply. Then it passed the second border. Another warning. Still no reply. By the time it reached the third post, people were no longer laughing. The Emperor's office was informed. A council meeting was called. The top generals sat together. They looked at the ship's path. They watched how it flew. They zoomed in on its shape. It didn't match other human ships. It was something new. It looked smooth, strong. But still, only one ship. The Emperor smiled. Send a message. Tell it to stop, or it will be stopped. A signal was sent to the ship, clear and strong. You are entering restricted space. Turn back, or we will take action. No answer. The Empire's science team checked the ship again. Something was strange. It had no escort, no ID code, no name. Only a strong engine signal, and it was fast. Too fast for a ship of that size. Then the ship stopped. Right on the edge of the Empire's central zone. It just sat there. Quiet. Floating in space. No sound. No movement. Captain Raylon looked at the screen. What is it doing? He asked. Nobody knew. The Emperor said, if it won't talk, maybe we should send a fleet. But then something unexpected happened. The signal from the ship disappeared. Gone. Vanished. The ship could no longer be seen on the radar. 1 second it was there. Then, nothing. Gasps filled the room. It vanished. Someone shouted. It just disappeared. It must be a trick, another said. Maybe it turned off its systems. But the Empire's radar was the best in the galaxy. No ship could hide from it. Not unless. Captain Raylon stood slowly. We don't understand this ship, he said. It's not here to talk. It's not here to trade. It's here for something else. Panic started to grow. If the ship had cloaking, if it could hide, if it could move without being seen, what else could it do? The Emperor tried to stay calm. Find that ship. Now. 3 patrol ships were sent, each one strong, each one fast. They moved in different directions, trying to search the area. They sent messages every minute. No contact. No sign. Still scanning. And then, silence. One message came from Patrol 1. We think we saw it. Strange glow on the right. Then nothing. Patrol 2. Systems acting strange. Lights dimming. Then nothing. Patrol 3 never said anything. All 3 ships. Gone. Not destroyed. Not attacked. Just gone. The Empire's command room was full of worried faces. The Emperor's hands shook slightly. How? He whispered. It's just one ship. Captain Rilon didn't answer. He watched the blank screen. He didn't blink. That night, no one slept. The Empire had many ships, many soldiers, many planets. It ruled over 100 species. But now, it was afraid. Afraid of one ship, a human ship. And no one knew where it would go next. Darkness hung over the Empire's command center. The silence from the patrol ships had turned curiosity into fear. No answers. No messages. No signal beacons. It was as if the three ships had just stopped existing. In the control room, screens kept flashing red. Systems were trying to find the human ship again. It was gone. Just like that. Even the backup satellites, the ones hidden across the borders, showed nothing. Some officers believed it was a system error. Others believed it was a trap. But deep inside, many started to believe something else. Something they didn't want to say out loud. The ship was doing this on purpose. Captain Rilon sat alone at his desk. He listened again to the last message from Patrol 1. Strange glow on the right. The voice had been calm, but it cut off mid-sentence. No alarm, no shout, just a quiet ending. He leaned back, looking up at the ceiling. He had seen many things in space. Rogue asteroids, strange signals, pirate ships. But this was different. Across the hall, a group of scientists tried to recreate the ship's path. They placed models on a table, showing the Empire's borders, patrols, and the human ship's movement. Every time they ran the simulation, the same thing happened. The human ship avoided every sensor. It stayed just out of reach. It never crossed into any trap zones. It moved like it already knew everything about the Empire's defenses. But how? No one had ever gotten that information. It was locked inside the Empire's private system. Only a few people had access. One scientist whispered, "What if it's not just a ship? What if it's a test?" Nobody answered. On the Empire's main news network, rumors started. Some said it was a secret human mission. Others said it was an old Empire ship stolen and changed. Some even said it wasn't human at all. In the middle of the night, a signal came. Not from the human ship, but from something else. It was small, about the size of a box. It entered the capital planet's orbit. Slowly, carefully. The defense systems saw it and locked on. But before they could do anything, the box stopped and opened. Inside were 3 small data chips. The defense team retrieved them and scanned them. Each chip had a number. 1, 2, 3. And inside each chip was the full flight record of the missing patrol ships. Hours of footage. Camera views from inside the ships. Engine reports. Pilot logs. Everything. The patrol ships had not crashed. They had not been taken by force. Their systems had just shut down. Not all at once, but one by one. Lights dimmed, engines cooled, screens turned black. The ships had simply stopped working. Then, in each video, the same image appeared. A shadow, a ship without lights, floating near the patrol ships, watching. No sound, no movement, just the quiet presence of something powerful. The patrol ships drifted slowly, helpless. And then the videos ended. The Empire's leaders watched in silence. For a long time, no one spoke, not even the Emperor. Captain Rilon finally broke the silence. "It wanted us to see this." "Why?" asked an advisor. "Why send the records back?" "To send a message," Rilon replied. "It could have done worse." But it didn't. It just watched. A new kind of fear filled the room. This wasn't a warning like others. It wasn't loud. It wasn't fast. It was quiet, careful, cold. And it worked. People across the Empire started talking. Civilians posted messages online. Is it here to protect something? Is it watching us too? Should we send a message? One young child even drew a picture. It showed a small human ship standing between the Empire and a planet with people holding hands. The drawing went viral. People liked the idea of peace, but the leaders weren't sure. The human ship didn't say what it wanted. It didn't speak. It didn't move. But it left a clear sign. It was in control. And it was still out there. Somewhere. Watching. Waiting. And the Empire could only wonder what would happen next. The sky above the capital planet looked the same. Bright stars. Quiet moons. But deep in every mind, something had changed. The air felt heavier. People walked slower. They looked up more often, wondering if the human ship was watching them from the shadows. In the central command room, the top leaders gathered again. The Emperor, calm on the outside, was thinking hard on the inside. He had ruled for decades, seen many threats, made many decisions. But this was different. It wasn't about size or strength. It was about presence. Captain Raylan stood beside the large screen. He showed the flight logs again. He pointed at small details the others had missed. "Look here," he said, tracing a path with his finger. "The ship knew exactly when our patrols turned. It stayed out of view, not just by chance. It moved with full understanding of our routes." One general asked, "Could it be remote-controlled?" Another said, "Or maybe it's an AI. No crew at all." But Raylan shook his head. "It moves like it's thinking, like someone is inside, watching, making choices." A quiet voice came from the back of the room. It was Minister Solon, the advisor on diplomacy. "Maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. Maybe it's not here to fight. Maybe it's here to see how we react." Everyone looked at her. She continued, "Think about it. It enters our space, makes no move, speaks no word, but shows it can disable our ships. It returns the data, like proof. Then it waits. What if it's not a threat, but a test?" The Emperor frowned. "A test of what?" "Of how we respond to something we don't control." Her words settled over the room like a soft cloud. Everyone was quiet for a moment. Just then, a new signal came in. Not from the human ship, but from a small listening station on the edge of the Empire's space. The message was short. "We see something." A light, moving slowly. Same shape as the human ship. All attention shifted. Screens lit up. Officers tracked the path. This time, the ship was coming closer. Not fast, but steady. It didn't hide. It didn't stop. It moved straight toward the Empire's capital planet. Panic didn't rise quickly. Not yet. But it was close. Every second, the distance got smaller. And the ship said nothing. The Emperor ordered a message to be sent. This time, a different one. It was calm. Simple. "You are entering our home. We ask for your purpose. Please respond." They waited. 1 minute. 5. 10. Then, something new happened. The ship sent a signal. Not a voice. Not a message. A song. It was soft, gentle. A tune no one had heard before, but it didn't sound strange. It sounded familiar, like something you'd hear from a story your grandmother told when you were young. Peaceful. Safe. The whole room stopped moving. The song played over the speakers. It filled every corner with something no one expected. Warmth. The Emperor stood up slowly. He didn't speak. He just listened. Captain Raylan stood beside him, eyes locked on the screen, unsure what to feel. The song ended. The ship stopped. It floated in place just outside the planet's outer ring. No words came. No threat followed. Just silence again. But this time, it felt different. The Empire's people heard the song too. It was shared across every channel, every station. People played it in their homes, in schools, even in temples. Children hummed it as they walked. Elders smiled as if they remembered it from somewhere long ago. Somehow, without using any words, the human ship had spoken. It had said, "I am not here to take. I am here to show." But still, no one truly knew what it wanted. Captain Raylan watched the stars that night. He sat alone, wondering, what did this ship mean? Why now? And what would happen if they answered? Or worse, What if they didn't? The silence of the human ship was growing heavier with each passing moment. The Empire's leaders had no answers. They could not understand what was happening. The song still echoed in the minds of everyone who had heard it, and people started to feel something strange, something that had not been felt in the Empire in a very long time. Fear was no longer the only emotion. There was something else, something unfamiliar. It was curiosity. The kind of curiosity that made people wonder if they had misjudged the human ship, or worse, if they had misunderstood everything about the humans. Inside the command room, the Emperor paced slowly. His hands were clasped behind his back, and his face was filled with uncertainty. He had always believed that the Empire was untouchable. It was the strongest, the most powerful. But now, a single ship had appeared from nowhere, and it had made the Empire look weak. It had shown the cracks in their walls. "Do we wait?" Captain Relon asked, breaking the silence. The Emperor stopped walking. He turned to face the room. Waiting isn't an option anymore. The people want answers. They want to know why this ship is here, and more importantly, what it wants. One of the advisors spoke up. "Perhaps it is time to make contact. We have all the technology, all the power at our disposal. Why not use it to learn more about this ship?" Raylon didn't respond immediately. He looked at the screen, his eyes narrowing. There was something about the ship that didn't feel like a threat, but it didn't feel like an ally either. It felt neutral, like it was waiting for something. "Make contact," the Emperor ordered. The message was sent, just as it had been before. But this time, there was a difference. It was not a simple request. It was more direct, more confident. "You are here. You have made your presence known. We ask again, what do you want?" The message was brief, clear, and firm. The Empire was not going to wait any longer. They had to know. They couldn't sit in the dark forever. Hours passed. Nothing. It was starting to feel like the first message all over again, just more silence. The same tension in the air. But then, in the late hours of the night, something happened. The human ship began to move. Slowly, but with purpose. It was heading towards the capital planet. And this time, it did not stop. There was no song, no message, just movement. The command room watched with bated breath as the ship got closer. The Empire's defenses were ready. If the ship crossed the line, if it came too close, they would respond. But the ship did not cross the line. Instead, it slowed down as it approached the outer atmosphere of the capital planet. It was hovering now, just above the clouds, suspended in the air like it had all the time in the world. "Why is it waiting?" one officer asked. No one had an answer. The Empire's communication systems were buzzing with questions from the outside world. Civilians were reporting sightings of the ship, stories of the song, of the quietness, of the strange feeling it brought. Some said it had appeared like a warning. Others thought it was a gift. But no one knew for sure. The Emperor's advisors were nervous. They spoke in hushed tones, questioning every decision that had been made so far. Everyone had an opinion now. The fear, the curiosity. It was growing. Then, at the crack of dawn, a new message came through. It wasn't a song this time. It wasn't even words. It was a picture. A simple image, a human ship floating above a peaceful planet. And beneath it, a small line of text appeared. "This is your choice." The picture faded quickly. The message was clear, but it didn't say anything at all. The ship was not going to attack. It wasn't going to fight. But it had put the choice in the hands of the Empire. What would they do? The Emperor stood still, staring at the image. His mind raced. He had expected many things. War, negotiations, a show of force. But this was nothing like he had imagined. For the first time, the Emperor didn't know what to do. He looked to Captain Relon, who was equally silent. The officers around them were unsure. The message was too simple, too direct. "It's a challenge," Raylon said quietly, breaking the tension in the room. "It's not a challenge," the Emperor replied, his voice cold. "It's a choice." The entire empire had always been about control. It had always been about showing strength, showing power. But now, this ship, this one human ship, had shown that strength wasn't always the answer. For the first time, the empire was unsure. The Emperor turned away from the screen. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing on his shoulders. Whatever choice they made next would change everything. Outside, the sun was rising. The stars were fading into the distance, but the human ship remained, just as still and as silent as it had been for days. Waiting for a choice to be made. And the Empire could do nothing but watch. The Empire had been built on certainty. It had always been a place where the strong ruled, and the weak bent their knees. The Emperor was a symbol of control, and his empire was a symbol of strength. Everything was calculated. Every move was predictable. Every decision was part of a larger plan. But now, everything felt different. The human ship had brought something to the Empire that it couldn't understand: an uncertainty. The Emperor stood on the balcony of the palace, staring out at the horizon. Below, the capital city was awakening, the streets bustling with the usual sounds of activity. But the people were different now. They had changed. There was an unease in the air, a tension that could not be ignored. Some whispered about the ship. Some feared it. Others wondered if it was a sign of something greater, something yet to come. The Emperor's thoughts were interrupted by the voice of his advisor, General Tyrion. The general had been quiet for days, watching the situation unfold with the eyes of a strategist. His voice was low, but firm as he spoke. "We can't wait any longer, Your Majesty. We've shown patience, but it's not enough. The people need more than silence. They need action." The Emperor turned to face him. He could see the concern in the general's eyes. There was something about Tyrion's tone that made him uneasy. It wasn't the usual confidence the general carried with him. This time, there was doubt. "What do you suggest?" the Emperor asked, though he already knew the answer. The general was a man of action, not words. It was why he had risen so quickly through the ranks. Tyrion's hands gripped the railing, and he looked out over the city, as if measuring the weight of his words. "We show force. We remind them who we are. The ship has tested our borders for too long. We can't just let it hover there, waiting. It's a symbol of defiance, and it needs to be dealt with." The Emperor took a deep breath. He didn't want to hear this. His mind raced. The Empire had always been about showing strength, about asserting dominance. That's how they had maintained control for centuries. But there was something in his gut, a voice that told him this wasn't like anything they had faced before. "I'm not sure that's the answer," the Emperor said quietly. "We don't even know what they want. What if this isn't a threat? What if it's something else? What if they're trying to tell us something?" Tyrion turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. "Your Majesty, if we wait too long, we risk losing control. What if the ship is waiting for us to show weakness? It's a challenge, not a conversation. They'd want us to react. And if we don't, it will only embolden them." The room fell silent as the Emperor considered his words. He had always been a ruler of action, a ruler of power. But the ship, it was different. There was no threat, no sign of aggression. Just silence, stillness. It was almost as if the ship itself was waiting for them to decide. In the quiet of the room, Captain R'hllon, who had been standing by the door, finally spoke. His voice was calm, but there was a hint of something else. Uncertainty, perhaps. What if we've misunderstood? What if the ship is trying to show us something, not take something from us? The general snorted. "Show us something. We're talking about a ship that can disable entire patrol fleets without lifting a finger. Do you really think this is some peaceful gesture?" R'hllon met Tyrion's gaze. "I think we've all seen the data. It hasn't attacked anyone. It hasn't made any hostile moves. Maybe it's not about power or dominance. Maybe it's about something else entirely." The Emperor rubbed his temples, The conversation was becoming a swirl of conflicting thoughts. They had no answers. They had no real understanding of what was happening. Yet the Empire was on the edge of a decision that could shape everything. "Send the message," the Emperor finally said. His voice was steady, though his heart was racing. "Not one of force. Not one of aggression. We'll reach out, not with power, but with understanding. We will show them that we are more than just soldiers, that we are capable of something greater." Tyrion's eyes widened in surprise, but the general held his tongue. He wasn't pleased, but he knew better than to argue with the Emperor. The decision had been made. Hours later, the message was prepared. It was simple. It was direct. It asked for a dialogue, an exchange of ideas. It asked for clarity. And most importantly, it showed the Empire's willingness to listen, to try to understand. As the message was sent, a strange calm fell over the capital. The people stopped their work, looking up at the sky, watching the stillness of the ship. No one knew what to expect next. The air was thick with anticipation. The ship, still hovering high above the planet, made no move. It did not respond to the message. It simply stayed in place, silent as ever. The Emperor waited. Hours passed, and still there was no answer. Was it rejection, or was it simply more waiting? Perhaps the Empire was not meant to understand right away. But one thing was clear. This was a moment of change. Whatever happened next, it would mark the beginning of something new. Whether it was a new war or a new peace, the Empire could no longer remain the same. And as the night fell, the human ship remained in the sky, a silent reminder that the future was not yet written. Days passed, and the ship remained, hanging in the sky like an unspoken question. No one had ever seen anything like it before. Its stillness was unnerving, yet somehow comforting. It did not approach. It did not retreat. It simply existed, watching, waiting. The Empire's leaders were growing restless. The silence had stretched too long. Every council meeting, every strategy session, now began with the same question. What should we do? But each time, the answer was unclear. The human ship had not given them anything to work with, no hint of its true intentions. The message they had sent out had not been answered, leaving them in a strange limbo. The Emperor, sitting at his desk late one night, stared at the view outside his window. The ship was still there, hovering just above the clouds. A strange feeling had settled into him, an odd mix of curiosity and unease. What did the ship want? Was it waiting for something? Or was it testing them? Whatever the answer, the ship was slowly eroding the confidence of the Empire. The Emperor's advisor, Minister Solon, entered the room quietly, breaking his thoughts. "Your Majesty, we've received another report from the outer colonies." The Emperor turned to face her. "What news?" "The ship. It's been sighted in multiple places now. Not just here, but near the other border worlds. People are talking. They've seen it. Some say it's just there, watching. Others believe it's a sign. No one knows what to make of it." The Emperor sighed heavily. "The silence is unbearable. The people are restless. Some are even starting to question whether we are still in control." Solon nodded. "It's difficult to lead in such uncertainty. But the ship, it's not hostile. It's not doing anything." The Emperor paused, his mind working through the possibilities. Could it be that we've made a mistake in how we viewed it? The room fell quiet. The air was thick with the weight of the Emperor's words. Minister Solon didn't reply immediately. She simply watched him, waiting. "I've always believed the Empire's strength is in its power," the Emperor continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "But now I'm starting to think there's something more to strength than just force." Solon stepped closer. "What do you mean, Your Majesty?" "I mean..." He stopped and stood, walking to the window. The ship seemed smaller from this distance, but its presence was still undeniable. Maybe we've been too focused on dominating everything, on controlling every situation. Perhaps there's another way. Perhaps there's strength in understanding, in listening, in showing the universe that we're capable of more than just conquering. Solon considered his words for a moment. You think the ship is trying to teach us something? The Emperor turned to her, his expression conflicted. I'm not sure, but I think we need to find out. It's not enough to simply ignore it. We've tried showing strength. We've tried silence. But it's not working. We need a new approach. The decision was made. The Emperor ordered that another message be sent, but this time it would not be one of force or control. It would be a message of understanding. He wanted to reach out, not with the intention of demanding answers, but to show that the Empire was capable of something different. It was a risk that could change everything. As the message was prepared, the people of the Empire began to react. News outlets, social media, and even the streets were buzzing with the mystery of the human ship. Some saw it as a threat, others as a symbol of something greater. The city's atmosphere had shifted. People no longer feared the ship, they were fascinated by it. And that fascination was beginning to change the way the Empire saw itself. As the message was sent out, the Emperor stood in his palace, watching the stars. For the first time in a long while, he felt uncertain. But he also felt something else, a sense of possibility. The Empire was not bound to a single path. It could evolve. It could grow. But only if it was willing to change. And then something unexpected happened. The ship responded. It was not a message. It was not a show of force. It was simply a change in position. The human ship began to move, slowly, and this time, it did not hover. It descended gently, until it was just above the planet's surface. It stopped again, holding steady in the atmosphere. And then, for the first time, it opened. A section of the ship's hull seemed to fold back, revealing a bright, glowing platform of sorts. It wasn't a weapon, nor a threatening device. It was a peaceful gesture. A bridge, perhaps. A symbol of peace, an invitation. And for the first time, the Emperor felt a spark of hope. The message was clear now, clearer than ever before. We are not here to harm you. We are here to show you something new. It was a moment unlike any other in the history of the Empire. And the choice, once again, lay with the Emperor and his people. What would they do? Would they embrace the unknown, or would they retreat into what they knew? The Emperor knew one thing for certain. This moment would define the future of the Empire, and the decision they made next would echo across the stars forever. The Emperor stood before the Grand Council, the room filled with his most trusted advisors, military leaders, and strategists. But this time, there was no excitement in the air, no eager discussions about power or conquest. There was only uncertainty, hanging like a heavy cloud over everyone present. For days, the human ship had been hovering near the capital, offering only silence and stillness. Yet its presence had shaken the Empire to its core. The people had begun to change. Where once they had been proud of their power and dominance, now they were questioning everything. The ship had given them a new perspective, one that neither the Emperor nor his council could ignore. The message from the ship had been received, and it was clear. We are not here to fight. We are here to learn. We are here to share something you have not yet seen. It was an invitation, not a demand. A call for dialogue, for understanding. But despite the clarity of the message, the decision was not easy. Some in the room were ready to embrace it, to reach out and take the first step toward a new future. Others were hesitant, unsure of what it meant, and a few, despite the Emperor's efforts to foster understanding, still saw the ship as a threat. They whispered about weakness, about surrendering to the unknown. The Emperor's mind was a storm of conflicting thoughts. He had spent his entire life in the Empire, learning its ways, understanding its power. He had been taught that strength came from control, from dominance. Yet, in the face of the ship's calm presence, he could not deny that there was something more to strength than simply exerting force. Finally, he raised his hand, signaling for silence. The room quieted instantly. All eyes turned to him. Some of you are afraid. He began, his voice steady, but filled with the weight of his decision. I can see it in your eyes. I can hear it in your words. You fear what the ship represents. You fear what it means for the Empire. But I ask you this. What do we have to lose by listening? He paused, letting his words settle. We have spent centuries conquering. We have spent centuries proving our power. But what if? What if there is another way? A way to lead not through fear, but through understanding. A way to grow, not by defeating others, but by learning from them. The room was still, the silence profound. No one spoke at first. The Emperor could see that some were thinking deeply, grappling with the idea he had just presented. It was not an easy concept for the Empire to accept, but perhaps it was time for change. Minister Solon, who had been one of the Emperor's most trusted advisors for many years, was the first to break the silence. Your Majesty, I have served you faithfully, and I have always trusted your judgment. If you believe this is the right path, then I am with you. The people have changed. They are looking for something more than power. They are searching for meaning. The Emperor nodded, grateful for her support. Thank you, Solon. But this decision is not just about power. It is about our future. It is about the future of the Empire, and the future of all who live within it. We cannot continue to rule through fear forever. Eventually, the people will ask for something different. Another voice spoke from across the room. It was General Tyrion, who had been one of the most vocal in advocating for strength and control. He stood tall, his gaze steady. Your Majesty, I understand your concerns, but the ship, whatever its intentions, has shown us nothing but silence. That silence could be a trap. We cannot let ourselves be lulled into complacency. Tyrion's words struck a chord with many, and for a moment, the Emperor hesitated. But then, he remembered the message from the ship, the invitation to communicate. He had felt it too. There was no hostility in the ship's presence, no aggression. It was simply there, waiting for something. We can no longer hide behind walls of power, the Emperor said. We must be brave enough to take the first step, not just for ourselves, but for the entire galaxy. And so the decision was made. The Emperor ordered a delegation to be sent to the human ship. They would approach it not as conquerors, but as equals. The message would be clear. The Empire was ready to listen, ready to learn. The time for silence and fear was over. As the delegation prepared, the Emperor stood alone in his chamber, looking out over the vast expanse of the stars. The ship was still there, its bright glow a constant reminder of the decision he had made. He did not know what the future held, but he knew one thing. Whatever came next, it would change everything. The Empire would never be the same. Hours later, the delegation arrived at the ship. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, the air almost electric. The humans had not shown aggression. They had not shown any sign of hostility. But there was still fear, the fear of the unknown, the fear of what might happen if they took this step. As the first representative of the Empire stepped forward, the ship's hatch opened slowly, revealing a small platform. The human leader stood at the other end, waiting. And in that moment, as the delegation approached, the Emperor realized something. This was not the end of their story. It was only the beginning.